Right then, so as we know, last night it was David Benavidez versus David Morrell, and David Benavidez got the win over David Morrell via unanimous decision. And yes, in a very good fight, David Benavidez was able to get the win. I have done a fight review, check that out if you haven't already. But I want to say some other things about it all as well, and what could be next for David Benavidez overall. And I believe that it's going to be Beterbiev or Bivol. Well, it is. And I think that the Canelo fight's beyond us now. Like, it's not going to happen. And overall, if we're being completely honest, I think Benavidez at this point in both his and Canelo's career, Benavidez will beat Canelo at this point in time, without a shadow of a doubt. And I'm not going to lie, Canelo I don't think's in his prime anymore. Benavidez is in the prime of his career. So everything right now is in Benavidez's favor. The height, the weight, everything is in Benavidez's favor right now. The speed in general as well. It's in David Benavidez's favor. So it's interesting in my opinion because I think it's got to be Beterbiev or Bivol next, 100%. And it's probably, but if Bivol wins though, a trilogy could be on. So what does Benavidez do though if that fight against with Bivol and Beterbiev ends with a Bivol win? What does Benavidez do there? Does he move back down? Does he fight Canelo? But again, no. I feel like sticking around at light heavyweight would be better for David Benavidez. He won't be trained at the weight or anything at super middleweight. Stick at light heavyweight because I think that performance against Morrell, it's a good statement win in my opinion. It is, without a shadow of a doubt. And Benavidez, in my opinion, 100% is the third best light heavyweight right now. That's what has been proven. He's the third best right now in the division. I think, let's be real. I'm going to talk about a bit about the Canelo fight soon, though. But for Benavidez in the light heavyweight division, with this win over David Morrell, who, let's be real, is basically, the other top guy in this light heavyweight division. Like, if we look through this light heavyweight division right now, you've got Beterbiev with all the belts. But you've got Bivol also as well, who is number 2. You've got David Benavidez, who's the regular WBA champ and now the interim WBC champion. And then you've got Joshua Buatsi, who's the interim WBO champ. But let's be real, David Benavidez is clear of Joshua Buatsi. Like, you've got the 3 at the top. I think you've got Beterbiev and Bivol up there as number 1 and 2, and then you've got Benavidez who's slightly under that. But again, though, Benavidez has still got more to prove, and you never know, could stick himself in that bracket with Bivol and Beterbiev, but that hasn't been shown just yet in his career. But you look at this division though, who does Benavidez fight in this light heavyweight division after that Morrell fight now, other than possibly Beterbiev or Bivol? Like, who does he fight? Because there's Buatsi, but it's like no one wants to see that. There's no demand for that fight whatsoever. He's beaten Alexander Govstik. I mean, David Benavidez versus Callum Smith, that's an absolutely pointless fight, And then you've got fights like, you haven't really got any other fight to make for David Benavidez right now. But I can't see this Canelo versus Benavidez fight happening though. I really don't. I feel like Benavidez has got his eyes set on Bivol or Beterbiev now. But talking about that Canelo versus Benavidez fight, I think that Benavidez is too big and too strong for Canelo at this point in both of their careers. I do. I think David Benavidez is too strong for him. He'll be able to lean on him quite a bit as well. And he'll be able to bully him a bit in the pockets, in my opinion. And, Canelo's hard to bully, but, his strength's kind of starting to fade a bit. And also as well, look, when Canelo fought Bivol most recently at light heavyweight, Canelo's power did not matter to Bivol whatsoever. Like, Bivol did not care about Canelo's power whatsoever. Like, he didn't care about what Canelo was bringing at him. That's the thing. He was able to deal with it fine. And, Benavidez has got a very good chin, and it showed in that Morrell fight. People are going to be like, oh, well, we got dropped. It was a footwork issue, if you're being completely honest with yourself. It was a footwork issue from David Benavidez. Yes, he got dropped, but it wasn't like his chin getting cracked and exposed, though. That's the thing. And, he got wobbled in that fourth round of it, but, he hung up and he stayed in there, and his legs eventually were still under him. He was hurt for about a split second or so, but he got his legs back under him. That's what David Benavidez was able to do in that fight. So, again, I've seen those people saying, don't put Benavidez and Canelo in the same sentence anymore after that fight. If I'm being honest, David Morrell probably hits harder than what Canelo does. Let's be real. David Morrell hits harder than what Canelo does. And I feel like it's obvious at this point as well. I think, Canelo's sharpness and power isn't what it was. Benavidez is very sharp right now, and that showed in the fight against Morrell. His uppercuts in the pocket were very good. And Benavidez v Canelo will be interesting up in the pocket because both guys like to fight up close. And I think, that's good for Benavidez to be able to bully Canelo a bit. Canelo's like 5'7", and you've got Benavidez who's like 6'1" or something like that. Like, Benavidez is going to be able to bully him. He's going to be able to lean on him. His shots are going to be meaner than what Canelo's are. And, Canelo is, he's very smart still, though. But I think Benavidez could rough him up, and if Benavidez can try and stick Canelo on that back foot, which I think is very possible, and I really do think he can beat down Canelo to a decision. That is what I do think at this point in time in both of their careers. But as I've been saying, I think that fight right now is literally beyond us. But I can't see a way the fight happens. I think for Benavidez, though, if it's not Bivol or Beterbiev next, who I reckon it's probably for him got to be someone like, I mean, it's difficult, I think, but it probably has got to be, though, someone moving up like a Christian Mbile moving up or something like that. I don't know. I feel like he's a very interesting guy to match, in my opinion. David Benavidez is. He's very interesting to match. But yeah, I mean, if Artur Beterbiev wins, it's obvious that it's going to be Benavidez, Beterbiev. But if Bivol wins, then they're going to go in for a trilogy. So what does Benavidez do there? He will want to keep active. He'll want to fight. Like, you got people like Holler Wallace, top of the division. Like, Benavidez, there's no point in that fight. You got Anthony Yarde, he's fighting Lyndon Arthur. Like, there's fights where there's just no point in Benavidez taking. But there is a chance, and Benavidez has said this as well, that he could move up to cruiserweight, or you never know, a cruiserweight can move down. I don't know, but could he move up to cruiserweight and have a fight against Zerdo or Badu Jack or something like that? That could be one that happens. It's interesting, in my opinion, what to do with David Benavidez next. I really do. I think it's interesting. But overall, though, I think David Benavidez versus Canelo at super middleweight, I think it's dead. I think it's beyond us. And I think it's because I think, but at this point, Benavidez has got a very dangerous style for Canelo. He's heavy. He's naturally heavier than him as well. And plus, I think it's at this point in Benavidez's career as well. It's like, there's no point going back down to 168, and he's going to be tighter. He's getting, we saw at the end of Benavidez at 168, he was getting tighter and tighter and tighter at the weight at the end of the day. That was a big thing. He was getting tighter the weight. So it's like, is this Canelo fight really going to happen? Probably not. If we're being completely honest. But, there's Jesse Hart, who's wanted to try and get a fight in with Benavidez, but it's like, who really wants to see that? I mean, yeah, it's a good, decent keep busy fight, or, you've got the Boazzi fight, which is a keep busy fight, but there's no demand for that, though. I mean, the Jesse Hart fight, we just don't want to see that one. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Can we see a move up for Benavidez to cruiserweight? Because he has mentioned that, but whether we see that or not is another thing. I wouldn't mind it, though. I think Benavidez is definitely, he would definitely be able to make cruiserweight. He's got the size, he's got the height to be able to do it. I think he can compete there. He's got the skill to be able to compete there. It's not exactly a great skilled division right now, though, is it? Like, that's the thing. He can definitely, he can definitely compete with Giant Potato. He can definitely compete with Zerdo. He'll probably beat Badu Jack. Yeah, like, it's interesting. Benavidez right now is one of the best fighters in the world, without a shadow of a doubt he is. But that win over David Morrell, it really does set a good standard, and it shows David Benavidez's level right now, 100%. And it was a good statement performance to a lot of people. I think, in his fights, possible fights against Beterbiev and Bivol, I think that, as I said, at this point, I think he's slightly below that level, but he can definitely compete with them, 100%. But I don't see him winning those fights. I don't see him winning. He can win. He can. You can't rule them out. He'll be competitive, but at this point, I wouldn't pick him. He's slightly below their level right now, but let's wait and see. He's only going to get better and better. He's 29. But that is the thing, though. He is still young. Like, he hasn't only got like 2 fights left. Like, Benavidez has still got many fights left to go. He's not even in his 30s yet. So, Benavidez at this point, it's best to get as much activity in as possible, but he's an interesting person to match, and he can be a difficult one to match as well, because he'll want fights that make sense. Someone like Joshua Buatsi, does that pay the bills for David Benavidez? I don't know. But again, though, Benavidez does seem like that guy who would fight anyone. But it's just like, you put Buatsi's and Benavidez's name together, and it's like, you just can't imagine that happening. You put Conor Wallace and Benavidez's name together. You can't imagine that happening. You put Anthony Yard, Benavidez's name together. You can't imagine that happening. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to wrap this up here. Thank you all for watching.